I've needed about a quarter of the way for the first one.
Before this?
Yeah. No, well, no, I went the wrong way. Or after.
Before we start, if anyone wants, not just before we start, but anytime, if anyone wants pita chips and hummus and fruit, please feel free to help
It's
yourselves.
interesting.
Yeah.
It's more, I found it more interesting than.
All right, so start right on time. Welcome everyone. So this is, I think one of my favorite things to do at our synagogue is to teach a skill that isn't just fulfilling, but also it's a way that you can give back to the synagogue, or at least just connect with the goings on in the services. And this is one of the more obscure pieces of what goes on in our synagogue life, because reading the Torah is really a special skill. It requires practice. It requires a technique and knowledge that not everyone in the congregation has. As you know, the Torah scroll does not have certain things built into it. It doesn't have vowels. It doesn't have punctuation. It doesn't have musical notes. So we have to prepare from a tikkun, right? The tikkun, the difference is, you may or may not have seen one of these. You can see that there's two columns, in the tikkun, on every page of the tikkun, and the two columns represent what it looks like in the Torah scroll, and then right beside it, so that we can actually learn it, it has the column with all of those things: the punctuation, the trope, the vowels, the nikud. And so what our job here is to do is to learn how we chant and how we sing this series of symbols that represent musical notes. So we call each one a trope. A trope is actually an English word that means a sign. You know what a trope is. And these signs represent a series of musical notes, but we call it a note, let's say. A trope is equivalent to a note. It's really a pattern. We are going to learn to recognize these notes and eventually build up a fluency with sort of sight reading the notes, so that we can then read a Hebrew text, i.e. the tikkun, and know how to sing the words based on what the trope is, what the musical notes or the cantillation is. And what we're going to do is we're going to use this program called Trope Trainer. I'm going to guide us through the learning. And there's a series of English sort of explanations, which are on the left here. And generally, I will, as we're going, I'll make them bigger so you can read along with me. Yeah, don't worry about the stuff at the top. That's just all the settings.
I know, but this is the melody, because you have a drop down.
Yeah, no, it's just an explanation of how to use the program. You don't have to do that today. We're not going to learn how to use the program specifically, but I'll tell you which part of the screen to look at that we're going to be working on. So the interesting thing about tropes is that they do so much. By the way, I'm video recording this, Devorah, so you don't have to.
No, I wanted, because I have this at home, so I want to take a picture so I know which tune to actually practice on.
Oh.
So that's Ashkenazi.
No, don't worry about that. We're not using any of that, because I'm going to do the singing.
Oh,
We're not going to have it do any of the singing.
I know. I want to see it on Trope Trainer at home.
You're
so
welcome.
I want to know which one you use.
Okay, I'm just saying I haven't set it up.
Okay.
So what you see there is actually not even a drop down, it's just an explanation of how to use the computer, this program.
Okay.
So up here is where the settings are, but I haven't really set them because we're not using them. Okay, so so when we have bar mitzvah lessons, bat mitzvah lessons, you see it so often. The kids are handed one sheet of paper by the cantor or by the bar bat mitzvah tutor with this on it. It's like a collection of all the tropes one time, so that you see what they look like, and then they record or provide a recording of one time through the tropes, and they say, great, now we've learned that, let's go and start learning Torah. That's great, but that's only a preview. That's only a hint of the notes. It's one way of doing every note, but there are so many possible combinations. So in something like 8 or 10 different trope groupings, those tropes are done in different combinations, and sometimes with some of the helper tropes and sometimes without. So we're going to learn a system here that gets at everything we might come across in the Torah, okay? I'm also going to skip a few things along the way because certain things we just come across so rarely that it's not even worth spending time on. For example, at the end of this cheat sheet, which we're going to move on from very quickly, we have Yerach ben Yomo, Karne Farah, Mercha Chafula. Those are so rare that we're not actually going to cover them in our thing here. I wonder if anyone's at the door. Maybe Dennis.
Like a phone.
If you see the custodians, could you ask them to watch the door, please?
Yeah.
Thank you. So I'll mention stuff like that, but we're not gonna spend much time on that if at all. So, I hate to start without Janice here, but.
Right. Well, I just have a question.
Yeah,
if
good,
I
good,
may.
perfect.
In terms of your methodology,
Yeah.
are you going to spend any time in trying to help us differentiate between what we already know, the Haftarah trope, and get that out of our brain?
Right, so some people know Haftarah tropes, not everyone here
And,
does.
and you know, because you start with the same kind of
So-
thing for that.
Right, so not just start with the same kind of thing, but the tropes are named and are look
Yeah, the same
identical.
name,
They're
So-
different,
so-
different.
Yeah, and
but it's
the
a different mode of tone or whatever.
right, both the cool thing and the difficult thing about trope is that it's the same system for all of the different trope styles. In other words, we have, never missed any. We have, hey, come on in. So we have a different sounding trope for Torah, for Haftarah, for 3 of the Megillot share one trope. Then we have Esther and Eicha, which have different tropes from those other Megillot, 3 other Megillot. We also have a different trope for the Torah reading on the high holidays, but they all look the same. And by the way, there's also regional tropes which we're not even going to deal with today. Like there's our Israeli Ashkenazi trope, which we all do here. When I was in England, we did a slightly different Torah trope and Haftarah trope, but that's for another time. So the answer to your question is we're going to be focusing so much on this that you will then have trouble going back to Haftarah. No, I'm just kidding. You won't have trouble doing anything. The thing is, you have to set yourself in the mode, and we're going to be exclusively in that mode. So from class to class, certainly you won't have trouble, but I'm hoping that I will elucidate some of the differences, but I also don't want to keeping us back to Haftarah.
So how do people, like the Talmud Chacham, how do they get their heads around all the different tropes? Just practice,
But also I have certain key things, and I'm sure you have some of them too. Like when I hear the Shema, and we're saying the Shema, Ve'ahavta et Adonai Le'echa, we're thinking Ve'ahavta et Adonai Le'echa, that we don't know how to do that in Haftarah trope. We do, we just don't, we just never do, right? So you can use that to get yourself into Torah trope. Similarly, like to get into Haftarah trope, you'd use the blessing before the Haftarah. Baruch atah Adonai, right? So.
Yeah, well, that's what I actually
Right.
do, because otherwise I find that the first 2-3 words in a Haftarah, I can't do them properly, and then I fall into the right mode, but
Right.
without that one, I don't start. The first and second word are always a problem.
Right. So the thing about Torah reading is we don't have that, like the blessing before the Torah reading doesn't get us into that mode exactly.
But the Amen can.
The Amen, exactly right, that's my next
Calvin
thing.
told to me that the way he gets into Torah trope is he thinks of the phrase that is used like all throughout Torah, like as God told Moshe. Yeah, and he thinks of that
Who
phrase.
said that?
Calvin,
Calvin.
Esther, and he said that gets him into the Torah.
Yeah.
That phrase.
Okay, so I'm going to do a preview for you, but this is getting at how we do the studying. And so you can see on the screen here, and I'm going to use the mouse as well because that's the best way to point to it. The tropes are above and below, above, below, above. It doesn't alternate, I'm just showing you that they're all around. Some of the tropes are a combination. So this trope, munach lagarmeh, is made up of a munach, that's that shape, you'll get to know it, and a psik, a line. Psik means a separation or pause, really, but we're going to get into that later. You'll notice that there's a bunch of munachs. Munach here, a munach here, a munach here, a munach here. Now, you'll hear in a second that I'm not singing all the munachs the same way. So, and I'm previewing this for you because I want you to keep this in mind when I start singing, is that because there are all these munachs are very much helper tropes. I'm going to be singing them differently, and the way that you should be thinking of them as what they are paired with, not as a munach and a zakif katon, or a munach and a revi'i, but think of them as a pair, and that way we can contour the notes based on what those munachs, where those munachs are. Okay, so it sounds like this. Kadma munach sarka, munach segol, munach legarmei, sometimes just called munach. Okay, because that line is the Lukarme. Munach revi'i, mapach pashta, munach zakif katon, zakif gadol, mercha tipecha, munach etnachta, mercha tipecha. Same as that one over there, by the way. Sof pasuk, pazer, telisha ketana, telisha gedola, kadma ve'azla, geresh, gershayim, darga, tevir, yativ, shalshelet. I love that one. Mercha tipecha, mercha sof pasuk. So I skipped Yerach ben Yomo and Karnei Para. Mercha chufula. This one appears like 3 times in all of Torah. This one I think once in all of Torah, and this one I think doesn't even appear in Torah. It just appears in Haftarah once in like the Yemenite custom only. So it's in there, but anyway. I didn't spend a lot of time explaining these. There's a ton I could say about all this, but we're going to cover each of these intricate things, these nuances, and these special things that are about each of the trope groups when we study the trope groups. But any questions before we move on, because that was a very, very quick overview, and I don't want to spend too much time on the cheat sheet.
I'm shocked that I am confused between the Haftarah and the Torah.
Because it is different.
So different.
It is different, yeah.
The way
There are similarities, though. I mean,
Yeah.
like, for
Yeah, it is
example,
like
Exactly.
so for example, munach zakif katon, Torah. Munach zakif katon, Torah, Haftarah. Munach zakif katon. So you see the munach still has that twiddly shape and then goes into some ending. And similarly, mercha, let's say, mercha tipecha, okay, that's Torah, and Haftarah, mercha tipecha. So they're similar, and some of the tropes sort of show you which way to sing, like if the trope goes down and back up, the notes kind of go down and back up. That's more true for Haftarah than for Torah, I find, but there's still most of the time that works. You'll see things like, I'll say things like pazer. Can you see the pazer there? It's like a little wishbone kind of thing. I'll often say to kids when I'm teaching them B'nai Mitzvah lessons that the pazer reminds me of a basketball net. And you can use these visualizations as you go along too. In basketball net, what do you do to score a basket? You have to do a layup, you have to do a run and up, and then the ball goes down. So pazer, and it goes in. So you could, and sometimes it's my visualization and it doesn't work for everyone, but things like that we'll come across and we'll discuss. Okay, quickly moving along, let's get rid of that. Okay, so here's a little bit of an introduction, and I do a lot of reading because this stuff is really, really well done. So, from ancient days, biblical texts were taught orally by singing them with their own unique melodies. These melodies help clarify meaning and punctuation of the texts. One of my favorite examples of that is, commas and punctuation. Trope actually does that because you'll see that in a moment that there's different colored tropes in this program representing, like, you must keep going, don't stop, and certain tropes that mean don't attach anything to this, you have to do a full stop kind of thing. Tropes end up therefore being punctuation as well as musical notes. Okay, so we're going to see that. A system of hand signals for telling a reader what melody to use for particular passages was used through the Middle Ages. This is called chironomy. Chironomy, so you'll often see in Israel particularly where many people can read Hebrew without vowels and so forth. It's second nature, so that opening up a Torah scroll is no big deal, but they still don't have the notes there. So somebody who has the tikkun or a chumash open beside them can do hand signals, mercha, tipecha, zakev katon, pashta, mapach, sof pasuk, etnachta. There's different systems, but so forth. This was called chironomy, chiro meaning handedness, so hand, and nomi meaning naming, so it was a hand naming system. That preceded trope. That preceded written trope, before we ever had tikkunim. So people could actually read the Torah with the help of somebody having the cheat sheet on the side and give the symbols to the Torah reader, and back then he just applied the music notes that he was being shown to the words that they were reading in the Torah. So the hand signals were known as tropes. Now the symbols on the page are known as tropes. So take a look at these words, ad, elon, moreh. This text has the letters and vowels that you're familiar with. In addition to the vowels, many biblical texts include the trope symbols that tell the reader how to sing the words. So here's the same example with the trope symbols added. So this is a tipecha, a munach, etnachta. You're not expected to necessarily know the names of them yet. We're going to get into that very, very clearly and succinctly for each section soon. So here's the important thing of this. Weave, the trope trainer software, has colored the trope symbols so you can easily tell which are the vowels and which are the trope symbols. The trope symbols have names and they have melodies. And in the lessons that follow, we're going to learn to recognize the trope symbols and the melodies that they represent. Okay, so that's our goal, and we're going to do that throughout each of the different trope groups in a system. I don't need that page. So, okay, this is good stuff here. Every word in the Torah and Haftarah has one or more trope symbols. Every word. And when we say word, we mean even compound words. A compound word is considered one word in terms of Torah reading. So that's what this one's saying here. Some biblical words are connected by a makaf, which is basically like a dash in English, a hyphen in English. The makaf appears in printed books, but is not written in the Torah scrolls. So you'll see two separate words, but it doesn't matter because we're going to be learning from the tikkun, and once we learn from the tikkun, it's basically memorizing what the notes are and the word and the pronunciations of the words are. Words connected by the makaf are treated as one word. I do that a lot, by the way. I get so excited by what I see on the screen and I jump ahead and tell you something, and then it's the next sentence of the page. I do that all the time. Okay, so trope symbols tell you what melody to use for every word, where to stop singing or keep singing, where to pause, like a comma in English, that's what I was saying about. And the Etnachta is that one that does pauses. There's other ones as well. It's important for us to know that there are three types of tropes. The ones we color red, this is like traffic light 101, okay? The ones we color red tell you to stop singing for a moment, just as a period tells you to stop speaking for a moment. The ones we color orange tell you to pause for a moment like a comma, and the rest, the green ones, just tell you the melody that you don't stop singing when you get to the end of words with those tropes. Something has to be attached. I will tell you orange is a little bit ambiguous in the sense it's not necessarily pause, but what it is rather is neither keep going, something has to attach to it right away, nor is it stop and take a breath and go for coffee. Okay? So, the phrase shows you tropes with all three colors. So sometimes the trope disappears at the wrong zoom level, so I just have to change it a little bit. So here we would see ad elon moreh. That's what that would sound like, because here we have a tipecha, munach, etnachta. Again, you're not supposed to necessarily know that yet, I haven't taught it. The point is, red means stop, orange means pause, and green means continue or go on, right? Elon, elon, that needs something musically, like you want to finish it, right? With badam, and then that's a spot to stop. As I said here, the ad, for example, ad, it's not like ad, elon moreh, it's ad, elon moreh. So that's what it means by a pause, okay? So again, the distinction there is not so important. That we're going to see it, each one in its right context specifically, and we'll just learn it in those groupings. So every trope has a different shape and name. 14 of these, all of the red tropes, and most of the orange tropes are used to end phrases. The remaining 13 tropes are called helper tropes. I'm sorry. Yeah. Used to complete the melodies of the phrases. Okay. All of the lessons that follow are organized around these 14 phrase-ending tropes and their 13 helpers. Don't let it overwhelm you. They go in very sort of logical, musical-sounding pairs or triplets or what have you, and we'll all make sense of them. We'll make sense of them all as we go. The other important thing to note is that trope symbols also mark the syllable to be accented. Okay, so you know in Ashkenaz Hebrew, we often find people accenting the words in different places than in modern Israeli or Sephardi custom. So we're just saying that tropes show you the accent of the words. That's all you missed. So for example, let's say somebody's name is Shin Lamed Vav Mem Sofit, which is Shalom, right? I say Shalom, but they may say Shalom, right? So there's an accent of the word thing. All right, grab a chair, come on in. And so what the trope does is it shows you not in the Torah itself, but in the Tikkun or in the preparation for the Torah, to read the Torah, it shows you which way to pronounce the word. In general, in modern Israeli Hebrew, and in which Torah, by the way, is as ancient as Torah is, that's what modern Israeli Hebrew is supposed to sound like. The general rule of thumb is the accent is on the last syllable, unless it tells you otherwise, and there's certain rules for that. And in that case, it's going to usually be on the second to last syllable. And the third piece of the accenting piece is that when you have a longer word, and certainly compound words, you often find an extra accent marker called a meteg, a little vertical line under a syllable that isn't the last or the second to last, to show you where a secondary accent is, like lahit ra'ot, right? 2 syllables, 2 accents, right? So that will probably be what's on the next screen. So let's see. Okay. All right. Well, actually, no. We're going right into the learning now. So this is exciting. Our first trope is Etnachta, and by the way, we're going to be doing a lot of, I'm going to say repeat after me kind of thing. So repeat after me. Etnachta. This is important because it's a tricky word, and I often say if it's if it's a tongue twister for you, break it down into its syllables. Etnachta. So just do that. Etnachta, and then if that's troublesome for you, just slow it down and eventually put it back together. Etnachta. So the first trope symbol we're going to learn is Etnachta, and it looks like this. It's this little red, in our program, wishbone, upside down, underneath the word, like that. So here we see what the lesson looks like. It puts the trope, the actual trope that we're learning, under or over, depending on where it naturally goes, the word that is the name of that trope. And it's also going to appear specifically on the accented syllable of that trope. Etnachta. I'm also going to say is that, in general, the placement of the trope, usually on the last syllable, but not always, in terms of the name of the trope, is that everything before the trope appears, the etnach, is almost inconsequential musically. Okay, so you'll see that sometimes when we relate the trope, the sound of the trope, to a word in the Torah that's 1 syllable long for a trope name that has 3 syllables, you'll find that the way we do that, apply the musical note, is just use the sound that appears on the ta of Etnachta. So for example, Etnachta, right? 3 notes, Etnachta. But what happens if the word is od? So then we just say od, not od, right? So you'll see that as we go. Etnachta is one of the 14 tropes that ends phrases. Okay? Very, very important. It gives us a sense of pause in the middle of a trope phrase, of a Torah phrase, not at the end of a Torah sentence, pasuk, right? Because that's going to be sof pasuk, which means sof, end of sentence, right? Okay. Etnachta is used to divide biblical verses into major parts, almost dividing them into separate sentences is not right, but clauses is right. Okay? Phrases. The word with the etnachta is therefore followed by a long pause. Long is relative. Like the pause you use when you see a period in an English sentence. I disagree. I think it's more like a semicolon. Yeah, exactly.
Semicolon and a period in English.
But not as long
Yes,
as
in terms
a
of
period.
pauses, but I think so. So that's why they say that. But anyway,
But, they usually use a semicolon though when you continue the same
Correct.
idea.
That's why I'm
It's a
saying-
period.
It's a relation.
Yeah.
So it's a sentence but it's not a phrase, let's say.
That's
It's a phrase
correct.
but not a full sentence.
exactly. So that's why I kind of disagree with the word period. I think more like comma, actually. Even
Yeah.
comma is more close to an etnachta. So you can use that moment for a quick breath, okay? Now, phrases are groups of words and sentences that go with one another that tell some of the meaning of the sentence. In the previous sentence, the words, phrases are groups of words and sentences that go with one another, is one phrase. In biblical texts, phrases always end in one of the 14 phrase-ending tropes. By the way, the beginning of this is very wordy, and then we get into just music and stuff. So this is kind of learning the system. In this lesson, we are studying the Etnachta trope, which is the most common phrase-ending trope. Most phrases have more than one word. Since each word has one or more tropes, we need more than just the Etnachta to take care of the phrase, right? The rest of the words in any phrase that end in Etnachta has one of three other tropes that are called helper tropes. So Etnachta is our main trope, but we have helper tropes such as mercha, that's a mercha right there, tipecha, that's a tipecha, and a munach. So let's just say that, mercha, tipecha, munach. Okay. All three of these tropes appear below the word. The trope symbol is shown under its Hebrew word. For example, the mercha symbol is the green curve under the chaf. Mercha, that's the mercha, okay? In this lesson, we're going to learn the sound of these tropes. In the first part of that lesson, we'll learn the melody of all four tropes in the following phrase. Mercha, tipecha, munach, etnachta. So, by the way, I have to make a judgment call about where to place the notes musically, pitch-wise. If it's uncomfortably high or uncomfortably low, let me know, but I'm kind of going to choose like a middle-low range, okay? So, mercha, tipecha, munach, etnachta. By the way, I'm recording this in case that helps you.
Thank you, that's good.
So these tropes don't just appear in any order. The tropes that serve the words of Etnachta phrases appear only in these combinations. Okay, so here now, like if ever there's a screenshot you want to grab, that's probably it, Deborah. Okay, because this is the meat of what we're learning. Okay, so what we do to figure out all of the different and learn all of the different combinations that could appear in Torah is to sing through these layouts of text that we're going to do throughout our lessons. So for example, I'm going to go Etnachta, and you're going to go
Etnachta.
Beautiful. Tipech, and by the way, all the time concentrating on what the trope looks like, because eventually we're going to take away the names of the trope and leave you just boxes, and you still have to sing the names of the trope. Okay, but we'll get the names by practice, but I want you to really focus on what these tropes look like. Etnachta,
Etnachta.
Tipecha, Etnachta.
Tipecha, Etnachta.
Good, and I'll just mention, Tipecha, yes, it comes back down, but the shape of that upward curve as we're reading from right to left, it is from right to left, it goes up. So you can use that as a reminder for you, exactly. Yes, it comes down, unlike Haftarah, which doesn't come down. So that's why I say Haftarah usually looks closer to what the visual is, but sounds closer to what the visual is. But here, we can still use it. Tipecha, Etnachta. Go for it. Tipecha,
Etnachta.
We're building it up here. We're going to put a mercha, tipecha. Mercha, tipecha, Etnachta. Mercha, tipecha, Etnachta. Now again, green trope. We can't, I paused so that you could hear that it was going down, but really, this is not somewhere where we can pause. Something must come after it. Mercha, tipecha, Etnachta. Go. Mercha, tipecha, Etnachta. Good. Tipecha, munach, Etnachta. Tipecha, munach, Etnachta. Good. Different than tipecha, munach, tipecha, mercha, Etnachta, which can happen. I'm surprised they actually don't put it here. Maybe it only happens with Sof Pasuk, so it doesn't. So let's just go on. The last one, which is what I sang to you, the very first total phrase. Mercha, tipecha, munach, Etnachta. Mercha, tipecha, munach, Etnachta. Good. So I'm going to go through those again, drill that in a little bit more, and then we'll go on to the next part of the exercise. Etnachta.
Etnachta.
Tipecha, Etnachta.
Tipecha,
tipecha etnachta. Tipecha munach etnachta. Mercha tipecha munach etnachta. Now, it's very easy to get confused between a munach and a mercha.
Yeah.
They almost look the same. You just have to be very aware that one of them's curved and one of them's straight angles, right? And mercha, right? And munach, right? They both kind of go down, and they both could appear just with an etnachta. Munach etnachta. Sorry, I did that wrong. See, that was mercha etnachta. That's what you have to be careful of. So mercha etnachta or munach etnachta. It's a starting place thing, right? So mercha etnachta. So etnachta is just yum bum bum. So depending on what we pair it with, munach et, and therefore munach is one note away from the etnachta. But if we do mercha et, then we have a jump 2 notes away, right? So don't worry so much about that.
Starts higher.
Yes, exactly. Munach or mercha.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it.
Oh, sorry, mercha. Yes, that's right. Mercha etnachta. So yes, they start in different places, and that's good news because we want them to be very different. Okay, that's great. Okay, so the following exercises will train you to sing these combinations. So here is where the computer gives us just different. It's zooming in only there. I thought this was zooming over here. Nope, just on the left. Okay, so ignore the gray box. I'm sorry about it. It's just part of the program because it lets me like play it. Okay, so it would play it if I wanted it to, but I don't want it to. So because the tropes are slightly different than we do. Okay, so but it is in the same key we're doing.
No, it's not.
Mercha tipecha munach etnachta. Try it. Mercha tipecha munach etnachta. Good. And we'll do these, still repeat after me for a little bit, and then I'm going to let you loose on this and say go. Okay, so that one was the same. So this one, etnachta. Good. That's the, yeah. Oh, sorry. I said repeat after me, but I then did. So we can all do this together, actually, because we're very fast learners here. Tipecha munach etnachta. And this one. Etnachta. Good. And this one. Mercha tipecha munach etnachta. Good. And this one. Mercha tipecha etnachta. You guys catch on very fast. That one. Etnachta. Good. Keep going. Tipecha munach etnachta. Good. And that one. Mercha tipecha munach etnachta. Everyone comfortable vocal ranges?
Anywhere with notation like D-G-E-G-A-G-E-E-D-C.
Yes. 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 So that's our mercha tipecha.
Can we read the notation for each
Uh,
trope somewhere?
yes.
She can sight read, that's all.
No, because like
So I just put it on the screen for you.
a third.
There it is.
If it's helpful, it's on the
Yeah,
screen.
see that will help.
That's
I
helpful.
mean,
We
that's
can leave
what
that
I
on the
need.
screen. But actually, I'd rather not have it on the screen because we need to start getting the notes of the tropes from the tropes, not from
I
musical
know,
notes.
but some of the tropes, like the one that goes up, da 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 da, it actually comes down. It should be a little.
Yeah, so for example,
not a-
mercha tipecha, which it does,
Oh,
right
that's
here.
very
Right
good.
there it does,
Mercha
but there it
tipecha. The other thing is, I don't like using these musical notes because they're slightly different than our KBI tradition, Ottawa tradition, Canada tradition. Okay, it's a tiny little
But you
different.
can get it.
Yeah, there are some that get close, but not entirely exactly.
Like how many different tropes are there? About 26.
27.
About that, yeah, yeah.
So, and this is the one for.
Etnachta with its helper tropes. So this is one main trope, an ending trope with 2 helper tropes.
No, but my question is there's a trope for Rosh Hashanah, one for.
Oh, how many different trope systems? Yeah, so we talked about that before you got here. There's about 6 or 7 different tropes for Ashkenazi.
And a different set for Sephardi.
Different set for Sephardi, different set for different geographical regions, different set for Chabad, different, like, so there's different nuschaot.
If you see the
Right.
drop down, there's like
Right,
50
so
of them.
that's a good point, right? So this one here, this is all of the different trope systems that we kind of know about and learn and teach. Oops, I didn't mean to. That's Hungarian. Anyway, we're basically using the common melody basically, and Jacobson is our closest one. Josh Jacobson in Boston.
Okay.
Okay, so but back to business here. Mercha tibecha munach etnachta.
Could you sing the difference again between Mercha and Tipcha?
Mercha tibecha. Mercha curves down, and tibecha goes back up. Tibecha. Yes,
The symbols would be.
yeah, I know,
Really come
but not all the
down,
symbols
it's
look
a
exactly
different
like they
thing.
sound. Yeah.
Yeah, so then that's why we need the notes.
No, you'll memorize the sounds. That's.
Yeah, but when we're reading Torah up
Yeah.
there,
There are no
there are no
symbols
notes,
anyway.
and the symbol, there are no symbols, so,
Right.
To learn it now.
I mean,
That's
seriously.
that's that's what I'm saying. But let's put in the work up front to move away from crutches like that, as it were, crutches.
Yeah.
You know, things that we can't help us on the day when we're reading. I want to move away from those and move into just recognizing the symbols and associating those with the notes. Don't worry if it's not coming right away.
Mercha is generally 3 syllables. Tipcha is 2 or 3 syllables. Mercha, ti.
Ha.
Good. It's 4 notes. Dum, dum, dum.
Yeah, but remember in the Torah when we're reading actual words, they
It
might not have
depends
that
on
many
the word,
syllables.
Exactly.
It could
Depends on
be
the syllables.
od, it could be achash panim, which is poor.
Yes, yes,
Don't worry about
yes,
Right? But it's still the accented word, the accented part of the Torah word, and this is like we're getting ahead of ourselves here. The accent part of the Torah word is going to relate most closely to the accented part of the trope name. Right? So even if the word is achash panim, that's a tipa cha. Only the cha is important. Cha, achash pa. We don't sing anything special.
yes.
Okay.
We
We just
place,
get through it.
place notes. somewhere.
Exactly. Usually the note that comes
Exactly.
before the note is the first note that we actually need. That's the one we work on. Okay, the next part of the activity here are
The
if we're
bottom.
ahead of the game and you want more review first, we can do that and figure out what our best speed is. But here what we have is, I thought I was able to expand this, but I guess not. Can everyone see these?
Yes.
Good, okay, so here we have, can you join me, see if you can do this? Mercha tipecha munach etnachta. Good, this is what we want. 2, 3. Etnachta. Good, and that one? Tipecha etnachta. So in a sense, tipecha, when that appears alone, or in other words, not with the mercha before it, you have to be at the right place in the mercha tipecha musical phrase that we might have in our mind. Yam bam bam ba-dum, right? So you just need the bam ba-dum part here. So some people at the very beginning of learning, it helps to hear tipecha, or at least to know, be aware that that's the exact same thing as when it's mercha tipecha. The sound of the tipecha is identical. Tipecha, so it's tipecha etnachta. See that? Okay. And that one? Mercha tipecha etnachta. Good. And that one? Etnachta. Yes, it's repetitive. That's okay. 1, 2, 3. Tipecha etnachta. Good. And that one? Mercha tipecha etnachta. Great. And that one? Etnachta. You're really drilling home the main trope there. This one? Tipecha munach etnachta. So we're going to repeat that for you. Tipecha munach etnachta. Right? So we're tipecha. We finish with that. It's orange. Now we can concentrate on the very common trope. Munach etnachta. So just do that. Munach etnachta. And putting the two together. Tipecha munach etnachta. Right. So it doesn't matter what the trope is before the munach etnachta. We reset and we keep the tropes consistent. We do them the same way no matter what's before and after them. That's almost always the case. I'm going to tell you in a later lesson one time where it's not exactly the case, but I'll teach you that exception. Okay, and the full one here. 1, 2, 3. Mercha tipecha Is everyone comfortable with that so far? This is moving pretty quickly, so if we get it, if it's not comfortable, we can slow it down. Syllables. This should zoom in. It should zoom in. Okay, it's not zooming in. Oh, there we go. So in the previous lesson, Etnachta, you learned the melodies of the three tropes, Merchati, Becha, and Etnachta. You probably noticed that the melody of each of these tropes is a little song with more than one note. See, I got ahead of myself. The answer to how do you sing the notes of a trope's melody with Hebrew words? The answer to this question depends on how many syllables are in the Hebrew word, and whether the Hebrew word has its accent on its last syllable or its next to last syllable. Okay? For some reason my scrolling is not working, and sometimes I just have to reset things like this to get it to work.
Yeah, sometimes if you make the text bigger, the scrolling does.
Yeah, oh, so you're aware of that, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm aware of that too. So here is a quick review of syllables. First we have speech sounds. In Hebrew and in English, speech sounds match up with letters. Syllables are made up of one or more speech sounds, and in Hebrew and in English, all syllables have exactly one vowel sound. Syllables can be built of speech sounds in three ways. A vowel sound, like ah. A vowel sound followed by a consonant sound, at. A consonant sound followed by a vowel sound, ba. A consonant sound followed by a vowel sound followed by a consonant, bat. Okay? Take the English word batting. It has two syllables, bat and ting. The first syllable bat is said more loudly than the second syllable, ting. Batting. That's an accent on the first syllable, first syllable, or second to last, really second to last syllable. We'll see that the distinction in Hebrew is more clear. This is called the accented syllable, and note also that the letters NG make up just one consonant sound, even though there are two letters involved. We all
Unless
know
you're
that.
from Montreal.
Right. Or Long Island.
Exactly,
Long Island.
Long Island.
Okay, so that's that. So, let me just read here. Tahom, I'm reading here on the left, is an example of a Hebrew word accented on its last syllable. Tahom. Everyone say tahom? Tahom. Right. It has two syllables. The first is not accented, the second is. Okay? The trope symbol marks the accented syllable. So, I don't know why it's all cut off, but it doesn't matter. In the word, I think it says hence, in the word tahom, or notice that the word tahom, the etnachta is found under the second syllable, the accented syllable. Okay? The trope symbol always marks the accented syllable in a Hebrew word. Again, I don't know why that's off the page, but.
Maybe if you squeeze it smaller.
Yeah, sort of. It's glitchy. It's not actually, there, that worked. It's not actually supposed to even zoom in and out. It's just a glitch of the program that I'm taking advantage of. Okay, so it doesn't work perfectly, but it does the trick. And you were right, it fixed it by zooming.
Zooming down.
Exactly. Okay, the notes of the trope melodies. Sorry, sometimes the scrolling isn't exactly right. So most trope melodies have more than one note. The first note of the trope is called the upbeat note, like etnach, those are the upbeat notes, and then ta is the melody of the trope. Okay. So in this case, the t of tahom is the only syllable before the accented syllable, the upbeat note, and is sung on the t syllable. So for example, tahom, just like in etnachta, two upbeats. The upbeat syllables apply to the upbeat part of the word. The downbeat syllable of the trope applies to the downbeat part of the word. So, for example, tahom, and I'm on the, that still doesn't zoom in, right? Lemina. By the way, did you notice I did that at the end? That's because the hey has a mapik in it, which makes it a hard or an aspirated hey, but don't worry about that, that's just a Hebrew thing. Mi besori. So because it's a kamatz katan. Okay, kamatz katan in this program will do this slightly bigger rounded version of the katan, of the kamatz.
Can I
why
ask
is
a
it bigger?
question? Why?
Yeah, what does it mean?
That's a grammatical thing that's sort of beyond the scope of the course. But
Actually, if you have a consonant with a dot in it
It's
and
an alt sound.
and a kamatz, then it becomes, generally, not always, there are exceptions to the rule, it generally becomes a O.
So it's called a closed accentless syllable.
So, the
Closed
comma-
vowel accentless syllable, yeah.
The comma when you're reading Hebrew is when you're reading Old
Yeah,
So-
we're definitely not doing old
And
Hebrew.
that depends on which dialect.
and
you
definitely
want.
not
Because
who.
you said, instead of saying na, you said no.
Here? No.
Yeah.
Let me not in old Hebrew, but that's not what we do. So
Oh, it seemed like you said that, sorry.
let me nah.
They know.
That's what I said. That's what I meant. I'm sure, but everyone's saying it backwards, so I assume we're just forgetting.
The other one
Mi
is.
besori, mi besori.
besori.
We're here always applying an etnachta, right? Al tishlechu vo,
Al
tishlechu vo,
bechol basar,
bechol basar.
Fun one.
Or.
No. So one syllable word, we only apply. So this is just a downbeat, right? This is just.
Or.
So we just apply the downbeat of the trope name. Etnachta, or. See, yes, it is just one note, but it happened to be, and different people have different vocal ranges, and so in a different vocal range, you're a lower voice. That would be the top note. But we're working on etnachta. Maybe I made it too high. I don't know. Etnachta. So it's or. There's our note. Or yeah, because you're singing about it. You would sing about it.
It's a perfect fourth, the Etnachta. Da, da,
Yes.
dum, da, 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 da.
Yeah.
So you're going up to the fourth tone.
Yes, but when you only have one syllable, there's no uppage. There's no uppage because it's just the one syllable. So it's or. So for example, if you had, let's say, I'm just going to use mercha tipecha. Mercha tipecha or, right? When I said before, you always do it exactly the same way, no matter what comes before and after, so that there's consistency. That's true, and that's the letter of the law. But you'll find most Torah readers will do a linkage, like professional Torah readers. So they would get mercha tipecha. They'll tag on the upbeat note of the next trope to the previous word, so that it sounds musically connected. Mercha tipecha or. Don't worry about that. These lessons don't really
It's enough to worry
give
about.
us that. Exactly, there's enough to worry about.
My
I love that. That's exactly right. Okay, so we've covered that. Right, so or. Okay. This is a Hebrew thing. I'm going to just make this a little bit bigger. Okay, this is some Hebrew stuff. Some special pronunciation rules. A couple of comments about these words is in order. Pronunciation of shva. Note the shva under the shin and the lamed in al tishlechu vo. The shin has a shva, the lamed has a shva. They're different. Do you see that? One's smaller and one's bigger. In the biblical text shown in the Trope Trainer software and some printed texts, shva is shown in two ways. And in Art Scroll, it's actually shown with a line over the letter that would have the bigger shva in this case. When the shva is large, it's pronounced as a short sound. Is not right. Okay, it's not Okay, ignore that. There's certain things about this program that I don't agree with, and I'll just teach you those differences. So it's pronounced with the, well, I mean, if you're talking about English grammatical rules, you would call it a schwa, right? A schwa is an it's like a little grunt, okay? When a shva is small, it's not pronounced at all. So for example, al tish, not pronounced, le is pronounced. Tish le huvo has both a small and a large shva. We pronounce the word el tish le huvo. We pronounce al, they should say al, see there's typos also. We pronounce tish as tish, not as tisha, and we pronounce lechu as lechu, not ulchu, right? So in the word mi beso, they should have put a larger, there's all kinds of typos. They should have put the larger commas here, but it doesn't matter for this exercise. In the word mi besori, the bet has a large shva, and you know how to pronounce the shva in that word as well, saying mi besari, not mi bsari. Some people do though, but that's just people who aren't as familiar with the rules of Hebrew pronunciation. And there's actually like 5 different situations that make us pronounce the shva. Again, that's a Hebrew lesson, not a trope lesson. So I'm going to say in this case, trust me. When you see a large shva, you pronounce it. When you see a small shva, you don't. We'll leave it at that for now. Okay. Good. So.
Also sounds county trying to pronounce something. I can't do that.
Mi besori.
Meet
Just like an extra syllable.
Meet the story.
No, the
Tish lechuvo? What's the question? Or the statement?
no, I said it sounds clumsy to say tisha
Tisha.
Tisha lechuvo, yeah.
lechuvo.
Although, but some customs do use that, like the Yemenite custom, they pronounce every shva, and some Sephardi communities do as well. So it would be al tisha lechuvo. Al tisha lechuvo. But we don't do that. Okay. Good. So we've got words accented on their initial, their last syllable. Now we're working on words that have the accent on their second to last syllable. So when a word is accented on its next to last syllable, let me make this bigger for you. Here's what happens. The upbeat note is sung on all syllables, if there are upbeat notes, before the syllable with the trope. Okay? So if there are upbeat notes, like la rakia, we use the upbeat sound of the trope name, like Etnachta. This is going to be la rakia, kia, right? Accent on the ki, not the okay? All of the notes of the trope's main melody, except the last note, are sung in the accented syllable. So la ra ki, and then the last thing is we tag on the last syllable that's not used, that's not accented, just on the same note. La ra ki, and slightly pulled back. You don't have to actually pull it back very much because it will eventually happen. La ra kia, try it. La ra kia. Good. I think we can go on to singing. Yep. Okay, so our examples here are Lila, Lila. Okay, good. So I'll just point out that picking a note out of the blue is difficult to do, and it's also difficult to relate it to anything. So if our note was Etnachta, then we need the ta, and we have to be careful not to go Lila. That said, not everyone has the same pitch recognition. So again, just note that we're looking at a certain part of the Etnachta trope for this part of the word. Lila, not Laila, right? Because we don't do upbeat notes where there are none. Lila, Lila, Hamayim, Hamayim, La Rakia,
La rakia,
Va'avarecheka, Cheka, Cheka. It's a kaf sofit. Kaf sofit, right there. So the dot is the ka sound. It hardens the what is normally at the end of a word a kaf sofit, and then we have the vowel that appears under it. Okay, so that's not an e sound in the middle of the word or anything like that. So the word here. Now, remember I told you about secondary accents on long words? Here we have the meteg. It shows you that the va is a secondary accent. Va'avarecheka. Va'avarecheka. So the way we sang it the first time was a little bit wrong. Okay? Because we went va'avarecheka, which puts the secondary accent on the va, right? It's not. It's actually on the va, on the middle va. Sorry, that wasn't clear at all. It actually, we put it on the opening vav, va. It's actually on the va in the middle of the word, va'avarecheka, which isn't surprising because the word va'avarecheka, and I will bless you, comes from the word baruch, baruch, right? So yes, the ruch is a bad example. Forget it. Okay? It doesn't actually work out the way I wanted it to. Right. Okay, here's what I want to say about that. It's on the va in the middle because these va and a are just prefixes. Va means and a means I. Okay? Usually the god I. Right? So va, and the word is baruch in there. Va'avarecheka. And so whenever you have conjugation suffixes like echa or eka or enu or anu, those sorts of suffixes that that apply the meaning to something, to a subject, like I will bless you, ka, ka. That's usually when we find the accent moving to the second to last syllable. Okay, Eloheinu, not Eloheinu, because we don't want to say our God, we want to say our God. Right? So similarly in Hebrew, the accent goes on the part of the word that's important. Yeah. Okay? So that's really good. We did all those examples. And we have 5 minutes left. Okay, this is the fun part. We're going to add words. So I don't need to read the stuff on the left. We are now simply adding words to our tropes and practicing the different combinations. Most of these I think are going to be last syllable examples. I'll throw in some think in the next exercise, but let's do this. So I assume your reading is good enough to grab that, but we'll do it slowly. So let's do this together. Et ha-beracha. Yes, good. And this one. Be'eretz Mitzrayim, be'eretz. Okay, so now what happens? No, because it's Goshen, right? So I stopped because I wanted to see what happened. So here we have Munach Etnachta, but what we really have is Munach Ta. So I added that extra note onto the Munach. But if we go right to the rets at that point, we sort of have to look ahead a little bit. I'm surprised they throw this one in this early, because what we have to do is we have to extend that so that it's eretz, and then the very next word has its syllable in an uncomfortable place on the second to last syllable. So it really should be the eretz Goshen. Tricky, because we normally want munach etnach, last syllable. Here we need to do munach, second to last syllable. We move up to the note at the beginning of that word. So be'eretz Mitzrayim, be'eretz Goshen. See that? Do that with me. Be'eretz Mitzrayim, be'eretz Goshen. Yes. Because if we move, what happens if we do it in the way if we're not thinking ahead about where this Goshen is, you end up with be'eretz, and then you have to say Goshen, and then you've missed a note of Munach, which has to be there. So you have to lengthen the be'eretz word to do that. Be'eretz Goshen. Yes? There's only one way to do that, because to make the link, you have to put the upbeat of the Etnachta as the last beat, the extra syllables of the Be'eretz. Moving on.
Question,
Yeah.
if God forbid, we put the Goshen or mispronounce it, I mean, if you mispronounce it.
Lightning bolt.
If you mispronounce a word,
Yeah.
contextually, it can be deemed incorrect when you're reading Torah.
Yes.
But if you're singing a God forbid a munach instead of a zarka or a
Not as
tzibakah
important.
instead of a,
Not
I
important.
mean,
Torah has to be word perfect, not note perfect.
That's what
Um,
I found.
That
because,
said,
As long as you say the
in
word
four
eretz.
words there, like you can theoretically spend an hour of your life
Yeah.
learning that one phrase, and then you get up Shabbos to sing it in shul, and you know I
Yeah.
mean seriously, in that one thing, you have to remember that.
I don't think it matters if you said eretz or eretz, as long as you said eretz.
yes, but of course we want to learn the right way.
Of
So we're
course.
going to
Of course.
we're going to keep our mind on that at this point. But yes,
Even
nobody's
though-
gonna.
But I remember being mortified when I sang the wrong pronunciation, the wrong trope,
Yeah,
and I was told that. They said, forget it, you said
like
the
look
word the
what
right
happened
way.
to Jonathan.
Everybody
He
does
was-
this.
He was
Yeah.
struggling like
Yeah.
a
Well,
lot.
He's so
he learned it
perfectionist.
really well. He learned. I heard him do it. The last two aliyot, he fell into this. He called it a trou de mémoire.
Yeah,
He
said
literally
something-
said, "I just blanked." It was like I hadn't even looked at that stuff, which he had.
You blanked.
But that's what happens with a long Torah reading, and he's not an experienced Torah reader of 15 years.
None of us.
Next year when he does Shemot, it'll be right there for him.
Yeah.
You know, because of the way
But
you
he's
learn it.
amazing.
He is amazing.
He's amazing.
So
he's perfect.
all credit, and you should see also that nobody's perfect. Like as you're learning this, take heart. Nobody's gonna be upset with you if you make a mistake. The fact that you're doing this at all is beautiful. I commend you enormously. But anyway, let's keep going with these exercises.
Can I just ask you one thing?
Yeah.
In the previous thing, so there's.
Unfortunately, I can't go back to it. It's random.
Okay, so I still don't remember the name of them, but so there's like one like this, and then one like this.
Yes,
Now,
Mercha and
in
Tibacha.
Torah, you combine the two words, right?
Not really.
No.
It's no more so than in Torah.
Okay.
Mercha tibecha in Torah, or Mercha tibecha in Haftarah. I actually do Mech. I did.
Why did they make
'Cause I'm a
it
cantor.
different? Why did they not
actually
have
do.
one trope for Torah and Haftarah?
I actually
would they have
don't know.
different
I have to make an admission. I actually do
Or
both in
different
Haftarah
tropes
Trope.
and-
So Mercha Tipecha Torah or Mercha Tipecha in Haftarah. The difference really is just that coming back down at the end of Torah Trope. Anyway, that's
I don't
what-
wanna think of that.
Yeah, that's why I said we're not going to concentrate on that. Ta'aseh bein ha'arbaim. Good. And this one. 1, 2, 3. Ah, tarof toraf. Good. And this one. Ki himaret rosho. Good. And this one. B'shagam hu vasar. Good. And this one. Zenumot dakot shedufot kadim. Excellent. We can keep doing this, but I think I want to just move to the exercises where they. Oh no, that's it. They're not giving us Torah examples yet. With come on, there we go. So let's keep doing this because I want to get to some that have it on the second to last syllable. I think they have those examples here. So this one. Et ha-beracha. So that's a meteg, showing you that the second syllable is on et ha-beracha.
Got it.
Right? Et ha-beracha, like it's one word. Et ha-beracha, all upbeat notes. Cha is the etnachta, is the ta, right? So that's how that works. Et ha-beracha. Okay.
As
Good.
opposed to et beracha, sort of thing?
Yeah, well, so it's a secondary accent. So every word we said, it might have been before you got here, every word has an accent, right? Longer words may need more accents.
Yeah, because that had 5 syllables.
Exactly. So they're going to show you where the secondary accents are with that little
Okay,
meteg.
yes.
Normally the accent is shown with the trope, but there is no trope on that part of the word. We will see examples where there are 2 tropes on one word. We'll do this last one, and that will bring us to the end of this
Wouldn't it
lesson.
make sense to put the mete where the accent should fall instead of at the beginning? Like the accent.
That's where the accent falls.
Where it is
Et ha-beracha,
So
et
there's one on-
ha-beracha.
So there's one on et and cha.
Exactly.
Et beracha.
Yes.
So there should be 2 metes.
Well, the trope is the second meteg. The trope fulfills the job of the role of the meteg.
symbol.
In short words, well, in any words, the trope always shows you which is the accented syllable. Look, ish, kemat, nat, ya, do. So the trope always falls on the accented syllable. Yeah, good. So one more to finish us off here, and 1, 2, 3. Chalutzim, itachem, itachem, itachem. Yeah. I'll tell you that this one is accented, pronounced because it's a letter with a dot in it. That's that rule. Cover other rules another time. So that's it for today. Next week we're going to start learning our sof pasuk phrases. Okay. So any questions on this so far? You're doing great.
Does an etnachta phrase come in every single sentence?
No,
Like a
because we can
pasuk
have
comes in every sentence.
Vaydaber Adonai el Moshe lemor. There's no
But
etnachta.
a sof pasuk,
Every
every
sentence.
sentence. Thank goodness.
Ani Adonai. Shortest sentence we have. Right?
We may have covered this before I got here, but the whole idea of the trope is that every shul in every part of the world using the Ashkenazi trope will be singing Torah exactly the same way.
No, there's also regional differences. So for example, Torah Trope in England, if I was to sing the Shema, ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה. Some are similar, as
It's
you can
almost
see.
a major key. It's almost.
Torah is, but there's subtle differences. That was my point. I don't want to get too into it because I don't want to distract anyone. I had to learn a new trope system when I moved to England. But it's all there for you. It's accessible. If once you learn one trope system, actually learning any other trope system is easy. You just have to separate the differences, right? Which is what Donna was worried about at the beginning. But we're going to concentrate so much on this that you're going to get this in your head.
Exactly, I'm not thinking.
And also remember, everyone, that when you have a Torah reading, certainly in our learning mode in KBI, you have me as a resource. I will always be happy to do a recording for you such that you can use it either as confirmation that you are practicing or reading, sight reading this stuff, right? Or you can rely on it more, right? So to get you going and to get you reading a Torah reading as soon as possible up on the Bima, you'll have, yes, you'll be able to recognize and read, and you all read Hebrew very well. So you can figure it out on your own, but if you wanted, you can always have my recording to get you sorted or started or whatever.
Well, I would like to do something for that special Shabbat.
Shabbat Shechianu is May
Yeah,
1st and
Shabbat
2nd.
Shechianu.
My goal is actually to have all of you doing a little Torah
Yeah, I
reading
would
then, but
like
not
to.
necessarily if you don't want to.
I would like
Um,
to.
But even if it's not that day, any day,
Six.
we have lots of Torah reading every week, so
Yeah.
lots of opportunities.
When
Shechachim, May I?
Shabbat Shechianu, May 2nd is the Saturday.
You're not-
Good. I actually have to run, so I'm gonna wish you all adieu, and I hope you enjoyed it.
Thank
It's a
you.
little bit dry, but it's
Great.
it's gonna build up and be very, very
I love it.
Is there something we
satisfying.
can do to
When
practice
is
between now and?
So I'm gonna put this video
May 2nd.
online.
Online where?
It'll be on my YouTube. It'll be on my YouTube channel, and I will share the link with everyone in this class. I think, yeah, I have everyone's.
I love it, because I'm a grammarian, I'm an English language teacher, so I love dry stuff.
You know,
Vowels and
in
so-
Spanish it's very easy because you've got three,
Of course,
the
but then-
three words you have, what they call palabras agudas, palabras graves, palabras distintas. And it says the agudas make the accent on the last syllable,
Yeah.
the graves on the penultimate, and the other one anywhere
Anywhere
else,
else.
anywhere else in the word.
Yeah,
And
similar.
some of it is governed by the length of the word,
Uh-huh.
and the root, and
Well, it's
the,
exactly the same.
and the